The other end, it's the other end.
That's it. Sure.
Okay, this is the Bonnie Lee application?
Yeah.
Okay,
Second. I'm gonna use George Strait to find this. So, but I need a minute.
Do you want me to wait?
well, I'm just looking for 9.3, I don't even, oh, it's right
It
here.
was added.
It was added.
Okay, tell us what's
Okay.
going on.
Okay, so staff received an application for a development agreement on behalf of Bunny Lee Farm, a nonprofit organization. The application included a proposed expansion and development for a 4-bedroom small option structure, and they've also identified 2 future development sites on their 68-acre campus lot. So right now, there's 11 existing structures on the property. They're in the mixed-use zone, which allows for commercial and institutional uses with a gross floor area of up to 2,000 meters squared by development permit. This one is above that, so in our land use bylaw, we allow that gross floor areas greater than 2,000 meters squared by development agreement, so that has triggered their need for a development agreement. You can see the proposed site plan and the design and the attachments. Preliminary, but I've got a lot of documents from them already, which is great. Can definitely speed up the process a bit. So they've intended to have on-site water and septic systems that will hook into the existing infrastructure. And then in the cover letter, they have noted a request to waive the application and advertising fees as they're a non-for-profit organization. So staff recommend council direct staff to prepare the draft development agreement, waive the application fees, and then we'll post a public information meeting in the early new year.
We've given them money to do it.
I'll move what we agreed on.
Yep.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Awesome.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
I'm going to-
Okay. Ghost year update. Guilty of not having read all that.
Yeah, it's on the back page. Ghost. So it's an update from Titan. Lee.
Yeah. There it is. There's no actions required or anything.
I think there's one, so it's an update from Titan Marine, and I believe there's one request. And it's asking if there would be an interest in to support raising public awareness on ghost gear. I did not go to the link on the site, but I think what the request is perhaps for the municipality to use our communication channels like our website to raise awareness with voters and citizens if they see ghost gear or other garbage that's in the marine environment, to contact the organization. I presume it's Titan Marine, so that they can arrange for cleanup or to assess it, determine if it needs to be cleaned up. So I think that's the request.
For us just to make it
To
public.
raise awareness about the harm ghost gear causes and other debris in the marine environment, and to identify ways that it can be addressed and mitigated.
Eric?
Yeah, I agree with that, but is there any way that we that have Facebook pages could put something on, is there something camera ready, so to speak, that they would provide us that we could post on each of our individual sites as well? Just a question.
Not aware of that, but I think likely if there was council support, we would have Jennifer reach out to them. We have Facebook, our social media channels, we have our website, we have newsletters. So there's a number of different communication platforms we could use.
And I know a lot of people that are more technical than I am can do that themselves. I'm just thinking if there was some support that I could put something on.
Don't reach out and find out what's
If I
available.
had the picture and the blurb, I could get it on, but
Okay, yeah.
it's.
Does anybody object to us participating and
No.
trying to help
Perfect.
promote it.
I think it's an excellent initiative.
Agreed.
Okay, and see what Jennifer can find.
Just out of curiosity, Sam, you're a voter and wondering, is that a big issue? I'm sure it is.
It is.
Yeah. It's usually lobster gear or nets or something, or is it something more?
Well, it's all that, yeah.
It's all of that.
It kills a lot of fish.
I think it's mainly ropes.
Oh, is it, oh, okay.
I've seen tuna already out in traps locally. They have an out there that did come and they bring it up and it's got a jet bottle. And fish and stuff like that, so.
It's just trying to keep people
Sure.
from putting stuff in the ocean. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be
they
there.
use it as a garbage water.
Yeah, I just thought it was more when you said about ghost gear, I'm thinking it was discarding fish ropes and,
Well, it's-
yeah, but it's
it's
garbage too as well, yeah.
It's in the storm.
Yeah.
They don't cover it.
The whole fishing gear.
But there was a big presentation last week, or earlier this week, about new lobster gear regulations and the ropes they use, and trying to eliminate the rope, because that is the biggest danger to the whales. And a lot of the fishermen are gonna have to change their traps and the way they haul them before the new regulations, before they can sell to the US. So it's a big deal, but this story said the main problem are ropes. And that's what gets entangled in the whales. But there's all the other things that Floyd mentioned, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so we just want to,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna promote it on our.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I've had a request to move 11.1 to 11.3 and 11.3 to 11.1, so unless somebody has a problem with that. So, Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference Trade Show, May 25th, 28th. Selection of attendees.
I'm interested.
Yeah, so here's the way it usually works. I go if I want to or can. And then I think it's 2 other councilors is what we do.
So, yeah.
So I am interested. It's been a long time since anybody's been to any of it. So your suggestion, you're interested.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Is anybody else interested?
I would be interested.
Normally what we do is draw straws.
We might have to do that. yeah.
Okay, just so it's interesting.
Well, yeah, but if people aren't interested, I guess, then they don't need to get their straw.
They don't put their straw.
Yeah,
I don't need a straw.
At least I'm interested.
you're interested. So we have, you're interested, Derek's interested, Adele is interested.
I'm interested right now.
Yeah. Okay, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straws.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure that
Well,
out.
what, is there a big market today or?
I don't have a clue.
It's just, we like.
So we can draw
like-
straws next week.
Yeah.
Okay. good.
Guess number between 1 and 10.
Yeah, so what I have is that,
We'll draw straws next
We
week.
don't have to be here.
yeah,
We trust it. We don't have to be here. Do it
Right.
another time. Just let us know, right?
yeah, we'll have a.
I don't need to witness it.
What are you drinking tonight?
It's more dramatic if you sit around the table.
Yeah, that's true, Derek. I've been here.
Think it-
We'll just draw them next week.
Put our pictures in a hat out there, there's pictures that are on.
We'll draw names next
I
week.
propose that since there has been no attendees for, several years due to COVID, you may wish to pick another
I'm
person.
just saying what our current practice is.
Yeah, but it's not a policy, it's a practice. So, you have the option here, people. I mean, I don't care, I'm not going, but
Well, we only have this year
And next.
and next year, so there's 6 councils, why don't we just send 3
If you
here,
said-
we'll figure it out.
that's what I mean. And
Okay.
something a little more equitable.
I don't,
3 this year, 3 next,
that way everybody gets a chance to go,
And as
if they
Sharon,
want to.
if they want.
and as Sharon indicated, for now, and that's the same with me, as we get closer to that date, if there's other things happening, with my family, not me.
I know, there's things that happen. that
Yeah,
change.
I'll be deciding because of these things happening, so yeah.
So we want you to draw 3 names.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just a
Yeah,
proposal.
we go next.
well, I don't, it makes sense. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going back up to, I'm gonna do 11.2.
Let's do Sylvia's road name,
Yeah.
reports, please, and then Tim can come up for 2 in a row.
It'd be hard.
Oh, this is an easy one. 2 road names in Sherwood.
Road names are Hamburg Lane and Alexander Parkway. They are unique road names to Nova Scotia and no objections from the fire department or public works.
Good question.
Sure.
We had some discussion previously about using people's names on the roads. Did we not, when we had this couple in the audience, wasn't it?
Yes, we did.
Did we have some policy against using people's names?
No.
No, there wasn't, was there some comment on that? Remember the couple that went back and they were upset about the name. because
Right, they all
using-
wanted to name the road
using-
after.
Using a neighbor's
county.
name or something. So,
I know.
I think that's based into case by case. You know,
Yeah.
If someone comes in and complains, like,
I mean, half the roads around here.
or all,
Somebody.
but, yeah, swimmer
I
and.
get it, but I mean, these are private roads, are they not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in the golf course in Sherwood.
Yeah, I know it is, but I just remember the discussion that we had, and I just want clarification on whether or not we had some
We don't have any
policy
policy.
around using people's names.
No, it's under controversy we deal with. So, anybody, what's
I'll move that we approve those two names.
Second, that motion.
discussion? All those in favor? Oh, motion's carried.
And one more in the Marriott's Cove. The name is Old Linden Lane, and it's a unique road name and no objections from the fire department.
And I'll move we approve that.
Discussion, all those in favor? Oh, motion's carried.
That was easy, so.
Yeah.
Usually is.
Yeah, no, accessible.
Now 11.1, the original 11.1 is a tax.
Financial, no,
Okay.
yeah. Request for reduction in taxes.
Right.
Morning, Council. So the first item I have for you today is a request for reduction of taxes due to a fire. Pretty standard stuff, a little bit of a twist on this one, but not much. The fire happened, it was a forest fire. It happened at 89, the property affected was 89 North Lower Grant Road in Chester Basin.
Yeah.
The reduction that I'm asking for approval and recommending today is $1,647.68. This is again due to a forest fire that occurred on May 22nd, 2020. The wrinkle that this one has is that it relates to 3 tax years because the fire happened in 2020 and we didn't get the request for revision of assessed value until this year. So the revised opinion of value is $10,000 versus assessed values of $73,900 and then $70,600 and $70,400 in each of the previous 2 years. There's a table here that shows a breakdown. So the 2020-2021 fiscal year was 312 days. And then for the full 365 days of each of the 2 most recent years. And you can see the breakdown there. So my options for you today are either to approve the recommended reduction of $1,647.68 or to approve the reduction to an extent council feels is appropriate.
Well, I mean, I know it burns.
And we're able to go back 3 years? Is that?
Yes, sure, do that.
I can't make a motion. or else-
I'll move that we approve that.
Option one.
Option
I'll
one.
second.
Discussion, all those in favor, opposed, motion's carried, thank you. Okay, now I am on to something that's gonna take you a little longer.
This one's a little bit more involved, yes.
What was that, 1.4?
This is 11.4, the capital budget presentation.
Okay,
All right, so this is the preliminary look at the first look at the 2023-24 capital budget, as well as the 4 years following, although we'll be focusing on the 23-24. I think you've had some information already about the process that we're planning to bring to you for this capital budget this year. This is a presentation for information, and there will be successive reviews and approvals at a later date. Also, this presentation is primarily a carry forward of what you would have seen in the past. So there aren't any newer, real exciting stuff here. It should all be stuff that you're familiar with. For example, there's no wastewater expansion or stuff like that. The bigger things that may be coming will come as their own separate items, and we'll have that later for you.
Yeah.
So I'll just go through the presentation, I guess. The first slide is for the trail bridge repairs.
Yeah.
This is continuing the work that was identified by the Design Point Engineering Services review, visual inspections in September 2021. They identified 11 trail bridges requiring various levels of work. The 7 items presented here have a budget of $132,000 for 23-24. This is consistent with what you would have seen in the multi-year budget last year. The numbers haven't changed. The work that was scheduled for 22-23 is expected to be completed. The funding of this work next year will be different, or is recommended to be different than what it was last year. Last year, we used the operating reserve fund. We are recommending using the gas tax fund going forward. This was originally, everything was planned to be with the gas tax. However, the work that was done in 22-23 did not qualify for that funding source because it was more inspection and review type work as opposed to actual physical work. The timing for this is planned for tenders in Q1 and construction in Q2 and Q3 of next year. And this will come back to you prior to awarding the tender for review and approval of that tender process. The next 5 slides cover the sidewalk and connector trails work that is included in the Investing in Canada infrastructure program bigger package that you're all very familiar with, I'm sure.
Yeah.
This is to improve the active transportation infrastructure throughout the municipality, and this particular item is about construction of sidewalks and trails with the objective to improve walkability in neighborhoods, create safe space for pedestrians, and active transportation friendly community. The timing of this will vary, and we'll include that in the following slides here on each project. And again, this will come back to council prior to tender. And I should also note
a workshop on that.
the ICIP stuff.
Yeah.
The budget estimates that are being used were developed 2 years ago. And as we all know, the last 2 years have had some interesting times with relation to costing and inflation of prices. So these prices are still reflective of the initial estimates and approved budget. There will be more information coming back to you once there are revised estimates of updated pricing. In case there are any changes that need to be made based on that information, that will come back to you at a later date.
I made a mistake. That's not the 22nd workshop. This is one that's going to take place in January.
So we're targeting January for that discussion.
Because the costs are gone.
Yeah.
I have a question, I shouldn't put it on camera here, but will it only be the municipal government investment that sees those increases, or
Well, that's a whole other, yeah.
are we hopeful that the federal and provincial contributions will?
We don't expect that, but
Yes.
they may allow us to make some adjustments and use the money in a more appropriate manner so that we can that's why we're having a workshop.
Okay, that's very interesting.
I would expect that, it would not surprise me if a bit of direction from council would include to reach out to the other organs of government to see if there's ability for us to cost share any increases but so the first step will be to have that discussion with council in January, bring you up to speed with what we know, and then there's at least a couple of areas where the traffic study, we had raised that last week, or the week before, Pig Loop and the Hubbard's Front Road, Back Road are 2 areas where we have funding, but also there was opportunities to consider changes to how those roadways work in our traffic study. So it's to have that discussion with you and chart a path forward.
That'll be part of that discussion in
Yeah,
January.
yeah.
Big loop and all that as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly, just as information that it's not that useful, but as part of our strategic planning in New Ross and engagement and discussions with all levels of our government, the MLA, but also the minister, Kim Mansland, when it comes to the infrastructure investment, working closely with the Ross Farm, we've had, just not looking for additional funds, but just making them aware and being thankful that this was approved within that process and the developments for New Ross and the infrastructure and the potential for beautification. So very exciting discussions.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. It's just that the costs have gone up. We need to have a discussion about how we're going to deal with all that.
Not directly on point, but December 22nd.
That's a different workshop.
Okay, we're still having a workshop.
That's
Yeah.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
I just had the dates wrong.
That's exit six growth strategy.
It's growth. Yeah. Andre,
No, I'm glad to see these in here. I'm glad to see the commitment from the other level of government here, from the sidewalks. And again, it's a bit off point, but I know I've spoken to Councillor Wells a few times about some of our desires to see active transportation, maybe up the Commons Road and stuff like that. And I'm wondering, are we going to be provided with an opportunity to really discuss that in council? I know that from time to time rec staff come in and they have their open space plan, but I think, I don't think we've had, that I can remember, a recent fulsome discussion about where we want to see this go. And I'd love the opportunity to have that chat. Because it's not going to affect this year's budget, obviously, but, you know, maybe
in the following
years, you know, we can start to sort of sway the budget discussions in that direction.
Oh, I think that's an obvious thing that we would have to do once we get this done, is move on to what comes next.
Yeah, I just want to not repeat, but Councilor Beano and I have, you know, very similar communities, you know, we both have part of the commons, and I think we've identified that as a real priority.
Yeah, well, the next time we make application for funding under this sort of a program, we have to have that discussion prior to, so we know what we're trying to accomplish. Okay.
Forward to that discussion.
So I'll go through the high level details of each of the projects. A number of these sidewalk and connector trail projects are carried forward from the 22-23 budget, as there was a little bit of work done towards them. However, the majority of that work will be carried forward into next year. And a couple of the items were originally planned for 23-24 and are also included here. So the first item is Highway 329. So that's about 60 meters, just a short extension connecting the existing sidewalk to the Worm Runners trailhead. And a safe crossing of 229. Design nearing completion, construction tendering to occur, planned to occur in Q4 of this fiscal year, so that construction can be planned for Q1 and 2 of the next fiscal year. The next one is Highway 3 to Croft Road. That's 265 meters connecting the sidewalks in Chester Basin. We'll provide a triangle of sidewalks in the core of that community.
But I just want to, my understanding is that it's actually going up to the trail.
Sorry,
I only know with Gord, and I also know that our staff had spoken with the people at the church about crossing their property, so I think you just need to check on it. It was originally, that was the design, but I know that they have considered taking it up to the crop, it's only another 100 yards, but to connect it right to our trail system.
I would expect that any scope discussions would probably be included in that later discussion, because there will be, you know, as the costs are discussed and the scope is discussed.
I don't have any issue with that. It's just that my understanding is they've already done the pricing, already had the discussion with the neighbors and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have all the details of all the projects. I'm
just
summarizing
saying,
them for the finance, but yeah.
The number might be the right one, but it's just the description's potentially wrong.
And the timing for this one is expected to be similar to that first one, with construction design nearing completion, tendering to occur in Q4 of this year, and then construction to begin early in next year.
So Tim, just for clarity, the individual projects identified here all roll up into the total cost on this first slide.
Yes, and also there's another summary of that on the slide number 7.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go through the details of each of these, or if that's better left for further discussion.
I think we've read them. I think I've read them, so I don't know.
Yeah, and we're going to have that whole debate on how we move forward anyway.
So I'm going to skip forward to 7, which is just the summary of the financial pieces of each of the projects as presented now, of course. Again, still open for those later discussions. Slide 7, yeah, the blue table.
You can burn on my screen.
Oh, I don't know what page it would be.
It's this one.
Up on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway,
Help me again.
these 7 projects are budgeted currently at just over $3.2 million, with a projected spend this year of around $75,000. which means that our contribution from the municipality, based on the calculations of the funding sharing, is just over 20,000 for this year, with an estimated remaining cost in 23-24 of 3.16 million, where the municipal contribution will be 844,000-ish. The next item is the East River Footbridge. This is one where you've seen it before. It's been on the budget previously. So this is where municipality owns a small parcel of land adjacent to East River between Highway 3 and the Rum Runners Trail. Parks and Rec staff have built a short semi-rustic trail and conducted several guided hikes on the property over the past few years. In order to connect the property to the rail trail, a small bridge over Barry's Brook is needing to be built. So this will provide that connection. And that's budgeted for currently at 25,000, and that's 16,000 from a private grant and 9,000 from gas tax, with construction planned for the summer of 2023. Next item is the Gold River Bridge replacement. So this one is currently, this is included in the ICIP funding. So that's an initial budget of $1.85 million total, which the municipal contribution would be $493,986. The projected cost to the end of this year would be just over $140,000, municipal contribution of $37,575. And you can see the remaining estimated costs for next year budgeted at $1.71 million and $456,967 for municipal contribution. So the design work is being worked on now, with construction tendering hopeful to occur in Q4. However, that will come back to council with the options from the design work in order to approve that before it moves forward to tender. The next item is another ICIP group, and that's the rapid rectangular flashing beacons. The plan here, this is so improving road crossings for pedestrians, making it safer and more comfortable for pedestrians and active transportation users to cross the main highway, the main roads. The budget for this is $233,749 with a municipal contribution of $62,339. These ones are pending approval from the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works. There will be an RFD coming back to you for approval regarding construction plans.
I think we were told that we couldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, unless something changes, then part of that, I don't want to get into next week for the next discussion, but part of that discussion will be, can we, if we can't do this, can we use that money to help us with the other stuff?
Right, within those communities, in terms of safety and walkability and all of that, because that's where I'll be coming from.
Well, it could be, that's why it's whatever. All I know is it will, part of the discussion will be, can we use the money for something else if we can't get it, if we can't get approval?
Yeah, because there could be signage, there could be other things that we
It
can
could
do
be
to help
anything, or. it
slow
could be
down
just
that traffic, which
Or-
again is still related to the purpose and the objectives of what we've laid out here.
Well, that's part of the discussion we'll be having.
Next week in Cal,
No, that's part of it.
Workshop.
part of the workshop.
In January.
In January.
Workshop.
Yeah.
Code.
And then there's a more detailed breakdown by location, but I'm not going to go through all that because, as we discussed, there's still some outstanding items around that that are more important than the detailed breakdown of the cost. The next items on the list are the open spaces implementation. This is a carry forward of the amounts that you would have seen in the 22-23 capital budget. So this would be essentially what the budget was in 22-23, less what we expect to spend this year is what you're going to see here in this budget. That's $99,000 to complete these projects. So this is for developing the campus of 5 GEM properties around the municipality, with scheduled completion for all these projects in 23-24, funded from the operating reserve. And then there are a couple slides with the details of each of the 5 locations and the remaining budget expectations for those projects. Those are East River, Castle Rock, Gold River, the Hahn property, and Moreland Point.
Yeah.
Next, we get into the landfill items. So the first slide there is the heavy equipment for Kaiser Metal landfill. As you're aware, a lot of the machinery and equipment operated at the landfill is aging and needs to be replaced regularly. Council has approved a landfill equipment replacement policy recently. That was P107. So with general rules to identify replacement decisions based on hours, usage, etc. The budgeted replacements for each year in the 5-year capital plan are based on the long-term plan for equipment needs. And the next thing you will see in regards to this back to council is that long-range planning document developed under policy P107. There are 4 pieces of equipment expected to be needed to purchase this year in the budget. That is a skid steer, a front loader, a 3/4 ton truck, and a dump truck. The total estimated cost for those 4 items is $975,000 to be funded through debt. The expectation there is for tenders to go out in Q4 and delivery in Q1 and 2 of next year. Next item is the leachate treatment plant, phase 2. So this is to upgrade the capacity for the leachate treatment system and management process at the landfill. So phase 1 was approved to be completed in 2021, and phase 2 is now expected to be completed in 23-24. This includes, I believe, modifications to the leachate ponds where they hold, as well as upgrades to the capacity of drawing the leachate out of the landfill cells themselves, where they've been getting higher levels than is ideal. The addition of a second equalization lagoon and aeration equipment is to increase the treatment capacity by ensuring adequate retention time of the leachate before disposal. And this is being done to maintain compliance and due diligence as per Nova Scotia environmental permits and regulation. The estimated cost for this in the year is $2 million, again to be funded through debt. Timing is to tender, expected to tender in Q1 and construction through Q2 and Q3. This will come back to council for award following the tender process. Next item is for green carts. This is somewhat of a standing item for the ongoing replacement needs of the large green carts that municipal residents need for their disposal of green bin waste, the compost, etc. This year's budget is expecting to purchase 200 additional carts at a cost of $30,000, which would be funded through the solid waste area rate. Nothing coming back to council on this one. It's just a kind of standing item. Then we get into the sewer area where the next 2 actually are also sort of standing items where we have capital budget each year to deal with ongoing needs of maintaining capital assets. Right, so the first one is maintenance, hole repairs, and infiltration reduction. This is to budget for the ongoing work needed each year to maintain and continue to work on prevention of the infiltration. The budget for this year is $53,000 to be funded from the EDUs. This is a standing item. You'll see this pretty much every year. Same with the pump replacement allowance. The budget for that this year is $32,000, again to be funded from the EDU. And this is for ongoing maintenance and replacement of pumps as needed in the sewer systems. Both of these items are likely to have some change in how we approach them as we go through with the asset management program. So they will be some of those items that are captured and brought to you probably in maybe a different format going forward. For now, this is how we're planning to budget for them in the year. Next is the Mill Cove wastewater extension. This is to reflect budget to account for the costs that would be required for expanding or extending the wastewater system in Mill Cove to meet the obligations under a development agreement between the municipality and the Aspetuck Ridge Golf Village Incorporated. We've agreed to extend the lines out to meet their development when they do break ground and create that place. So that item needs to be in the budget to reflect that when they're ready, we will be ready.
This year, we'll.
Exactly. The next one is also Mill Cove, the addition of a biofilter unit. This is primarily based on increasing the capacity for the Mill Cove system to account for growth in the area for an additional 35 to 50 units. The estimated cost is at $325,000 to be funded half from gas tax and half from debt. And then you will see this come back to you with an RFD to approve the scope before going to tender. So there will be more information before we actually go to spend any of this money. Municipal property fleet management. So this year in the infrastructure and operations, their life cycle needs for vehicles are identified in the table here. They need a 1-ton truck with a crane at an estimated cost of $150,000. This would be for the sewers department. That's for lifting things in and out of the maintenance holes essentially and access to work sites. And also a dump trailer for $15,000 for the municipal property division. These will both be funded from borrowing, expected to tender in Q4 of this year, and then deliver in Q1 of next year. And the RFD to approve the tender will come back to council. The next one is the Wild Rose Park washroom renovation. This is the carry forward of last year's item. There was $100,000 budgeted for upgrades or remodeling, or is it rebuilding? Anyway, to upgrade the public washroom there. We expect about 50% of that work to be completed in the current year, and the remaining 50%, $50,000, is to be carried forward into next year's capital budget to complete that work.
That means some of it's being done now.
Oh, yeah.
Ongoing.
It's underway.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's being worked on now.
Good job.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit better than a porta potty there.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of done.
Yeah, next item is the speed radar units. That would be 7 units, 1 for each district. This is for improving the safety of the active transportation and vehicular safety, public education through speed radar units, with the objective of safer roads. Budgeted at $70,000 from the gas tax, hopefully to be completed in Q1 of next year.
We may have to take a different approach.
So yes, a question on that, just so for public awareness as well. So update on that is the fact that we're not sure that they're going to be approved. 1, I think, was identified for approval, possibly the 7. What's the update on all that? Or confirmation on all that, please?
I've heard nothing different.
To say, we're still awaiting that confirmation whether the one initially suggested will be approved. So we'll follow up with
So you didn't submit all 7 at once? You
they're
submitted-
all with the province.
Okay, so what I'd like for public awareness and transparency is when we receive the rejection on the other 6, wherever they might be, I'd like to have a copy of that written narrative from the province, because I'd like to know the reasoning to explain to my community why the province denied it. Is that correct? Am I using the right words?
So what my understanding is, and I know Manny will correct me, is that the traffic manuals that are used, the standards to permit signage or speed limits is what is used by the provincial government. And the standard for the placement of a temporary speed radar unit is different than the standard for a permanent speed radar unit. And so, so there's a higher, you have to meet a higher threshold, as I understand it, in order to install a permanent one. So I think probably would be best for us to get the standard, have them explain what the different standard is for the temporary placement versus the permanent placement. I think it has something to do with traffic volumes. So we can get that information so that you're able to communicate why the decision was made by the province to not permit.
We don't have it in writing, they're not permitted yet, do we?
No.
No.
So great, so we can possibly move ahead. So
Oh, whatever.
certainly, thank you. So part B to that would be is, again, we've got a very mobile public. And so the public in my area are traveling throughout different parts of the province, including our neighboring municipal units. So the question will be then how, if that's what you're saying in terms of the standard and the manual and getting the differences and so on, they'll be asking, and I would like to provide that answer. Then I will bring that question here, and so then we would have to answer that too. How we're seeing them in other areas. So I just like to get more intimate details around that.
Yeah, how come they were approved there and not here? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The one explanation that might be beneficial for the public is there are certainly permanent installations in urban communities, towns, and regional governments. And when the municipality owns the roads and is the traffic authority,
That's a
that
different
would be a decision made by the municipality rather than the province. The province standard relates to roads that they own throughout the province, and so we'll endeavor to get that standard for you so that
Yeah.
we're able to communicate to the community what that is and why a certain location does not meet that standard.
So just to jump in, I'll compare it, I'll use the example of Modal, which is not a town, they don't own the roads. And yet we're seeing some of, have been up, and there's more in the budget last year, more going in this year, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My understanding is too that they'd like some documentation,
Mhm.
and I know that in the Harvard year, we're impressed with that one, we had our mobile speed radar set up there at different times. It tells you the amount of traffic, the
Yeah.
speeds,
Yeah.
how it was abused, we have that, and I don't think we supplied that information to them, which may make them approve it, but I have no problem with purchasing one of them for Harvard and putting it up temporary.
Mm.
I have no problem with it at all, temporary is, income tax is temporary.
Yeah,
Good one.
I have no problem with putting it up temporary, they're doing it in other jurisdictions, I think they protect their community, they save lives. And
Yeah.
I think we have to find a way to get them up.
that's
Find a way.
really, that's not a budget thing, it's in the budget.
Yeah.
Just,
But we're not
just how we're
buying them.
gonna get it done.
If
Excellent.
we don't purchase them and move on to, it, we'll never get them.
Well, they're in the budget to be purchased.
Beautiful.
That'll be part of our discussion, right?
It's just a question of how do we. make
I'll
them-
have one for temporary. that one.
Yeah, well, whether-
Probably more effective if you're temporary and mobile and moving around anyway. That after a while,
Yeah, that's our intention, isn't it? Move it around.
after a
Yeah.
while, you,
Yeah.
You
Don't
said
see
that
anything.
vernacular yet.
Yeah, we
So,
can make it work.
yeah, we can make it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's helpful to understand that. I know one of the things we did speak to council about was the resources required to install one time. Is different than the resources required if you're frequently moving them. And the mobile unit, as you know, has wheels. These units do not have,
I don't
the
think we're
permanent ones
talking
don't
about,
have wheels,
I don't think
so,
we're talking about moving them.
no, but.
Just install them temporarily.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I understand now.
I was,
Yeah.
I was.
They're getting-
I was talking to you.
They're getting the picture, Dan.
They're
Yeah, I am.
We just got really busy and they just get moved.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Now I get it, I'm turning red.
We can only say so much about this.
I understand the council direction.
We were on the same page now. I wasn't on that page either.
Okay.
Well,
All that.
I guess I read the
Tenants
faces
out
of
of
everybody.
everybody sins.
You did mine right.
You know, I thought I understood what was being said.
Yeah, we can identify some options and alternatives for
Yeah.
council to consider and direct us.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay. The next item here is Parade Square Monument in Cannon. So the Chester Legion has requested that the municipality repair the concrete base for the two cannons at the Parade Square. During a site inspection, work was also identified for the cenotaph to do some repointing work there. This is to renew infrastructure and assets, ensure safety.
Some,
We did figure out that we do own that, yes.
yes, somehow.
It took some digging. We
Out of
figured that.
respect.
Should do it anyway.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, should do it anyway, whether we have it or not, really.
Anyway, it's in the budget.
Yeah, the estimated cost for this is $25,000 to be funded from operating. And the expected timing would be for Q2 of next year. The last item here with you today is another one of those kind of standing capital items for ongoing capital improvement and maintenance work for trail surface upgrades. So just for annually, they'll assess the condition of the trail surfaces and identify the areas most in need of repair or maintenance. To provide smooth and consistent trail surfaces, supporting those active transportation and healthy lifestyles. This year's budget item for this would be $27,000 to be funded from operating, expected to be completed in Q2 of 23-24, and it would go forward once this budget is approved.
Questions, people? It's gonna be back a couple times.
Well, all the stuff we are gonna have.
The only comments I have are related to the solid waste investments. I realize obviously this is just first blush and glance, and I appreciate that very much. Actually, I like this format where we're getting some bits of information as they come forth, and it gives us time to think about it. What I'm interested in is, though, I think I mentioned this last year, probably maybe before, I'm not sure, but nonetheless, I'm really interested in the context of our investment in the landfill relative to the business. So, and now that will come, probably, hopefully. But that's of crucial importance for me. I really want to, I find sometimes it's really hard for me to really understand what these investments mean.
Yeah, and I know he's working on that, a couple of business models, this happens, if this happens, if this happens.
Yes, there's quite extensive work going on that stuff right
But
now.
at the moment, and just in order to meet our environmental requirements, we have to.
I just, on some of the projects, seems to be a lot of borrowing, Tim. Is that something that we,
So the borrowing
Yeah.
that's happening, most of that is in the solid waste area. So
Yes.
that is, it's a revenue generating asset, right? So we're borrowing, but we're not paying that debt from the general rate. That's coming back from revenue generated at the landfill as well as the solid waste rate. So as well as you can see some borrowing in the universal sewer projects.
Yes.
It's pretty consistent. The only borrowing you would see on this presentation that would impact future general rate would be for the municipal property. And actually, most of that is technically sewer. That truck is most of that item there. So it would really just be a small amount for the trailer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really to reflect with these long-lived assets that last for 5-10 years of use. If you pay for them all up front, you're hitting the tax rate all at once and then not, whereas if you borrow for it, you're paying for it over the term that you are using the asset. So it's hitting the taxes at, a relatively similar rate to the benefit that the community is getting out of that asset.
just basically we're looking at, what we have in reserve and how that works? Just a question I had, with borrowing money in regards to municipality or whatever, but no, that's fine, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, when we're borrowing for assets, you do what you can to align the term of the debt repayment with the life of the asset, so that you're paying for that asset over the same period of time that you're using, getting benefit from the use. So it really does help to actually allocate costs more adequately or more appropriately to the use of an asset that's being funded that way.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, team, then me.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
15, Family Resource Center.
Thank you. I had forgotten that it was 25th anniversary for the Family Resource Center in New Ross. And they had built in as part of the New Ross Christmas Festival weekend, because they always have an event there, as part of that weekend, they did an open house downstairs in the lower level in the outer room. Santa was, of course, in the other community room, lower level, and then upstairs there was ice cream and crafts. But downstairs they had, again, the open house and celebrating 25 years. And they had new brochures that they've just done, and I brought one for all of my fellow councillors. I told them, the staff and board, that my fellow councillors would love to receive one of these new brochures.
Yes.
And I will share them with my, again, fellow councillors here. So it was just a well-attended community celebration recognizing 25 years of them being a facility, a resource, driver of new programs in the community. And they've highlighted the partnerships, and the municipality is a big partnership with the Family Resource Center. And the school too, as being a community school with Nadine, a community school community coordinator, I'm sorry, and so on. But I'm just going to read the paragraph where it says about us. The New Ross Family Resource Center was established in the old school in March 1997. We are a nonprofit organization designed to enhance the health and well-being of families residing in the New Ross area. We offer a wide range of community-based programs and services which acknowledge the needs of the people of New Ross, reducing the feeling of isolation and providing an atmosphere where all are welcome. Their goals Our goal as a family resource center is to offer free programs and low-cost services that address the following key areas: child and youth development, safety and well-being, parenting support, family support, social, cultural, and community connections, cultural, relevant, and responsive supports. I just know that we've had some discussions here around our line items, and some of the emphasis has been referenced back to the daycare within the Family Resource Center. That's a separate standalone board within the center, so I just wanted to, again, just mention that, I guess, as part of that ongoing discussion. So no discussion needed, just wanted to mention.
Tina, I just got a question. The old school, the new Ross, is that where Janet's building is, or no, is it by that area,
Well,
close to that
it
area?
was Janet's, it's sold now.
Was Janet's,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, I mean, Janet's is sold across the road, but the New Ross Consolidated School fronts Highway 12, which is the primary, pre-primary to grade 8 now. The old school, that's a local term for us in
Okay.
New Ross. It's the building that we own as a municipality. But
Okay.
again,
Daycare.
Oh, okay, I
during the
wasn't,
time I went to school there and grade primary 1 and 2, and then moved over to the big school.
to the big school, okay.
That was when NRCS was P to 12. So that's why we in New Ross call it the old school. And
Okay,
it is in quotes.
I didn't know where
It is
that
in quotes. It's only a New Ross reference. old
That's
school.
okay, that's
Thank you.
good, thanks, I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm next, and I just want to, and this is just sort of for, I just need to say it, I guess. And that is, I think it was not last week, week before, we had an in-camera session. And on that in-camera session, shared services were discussed. And it was in camera, and it is for a reason. I've had numerous phone calls over the last several days. I know that Councilor Church has had numerous emails concerning the details of that discussion. And the only way that the public who were calling me or emailing her would be aware of that is if it came from people who were in the room at the time, whether that's staff or council. But somehow it's been leaked to the public. And I don't want to get into who I think did it or who I think didn't. All I want to say is that whether it's a staff level or a council level, it's inappropriate and will not be tolerated. So I just want you to know that. It cannot happen. And that's it.
I think we'd all agree with that.
Well, I hope we all do. But somebody did. And that's the end of it. So we have a couple in camera things. We'll have a